All right, starting lesson 5.5, the last lesson of the chapter, using congruent triangles, CPCTC. All right, what is that all about? The big idea of this lesson is that if you can prove two triangles are congruent, then you can prove any of the corresponding angles or sides are congruent using this reason, CPCTC, which means corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, how does this work exactly? How do you apply it? All right, let's go into an example of that. Before I do, here's another way to understand this idea. If I know two triangles are congruent, then I know their corresponding sides are congruent, right? BC is congruent to DF, and I have AC is congruent to EF, right? I know all that information if I know the triangles are congruent. Okay, let me erase this for a second so I don't have too much stuff in the way. Okay. All right, and also A is congruent to E, B is congruent to D, and C is congruent to F. By using the reason CPCTC. All right, now let's go over an example. All right, so you're given MP bisects LMN. MP bisects LMN, okay? All right, I know that these angles are congruent because the angle's bisected. And then based on this information, that's just given. Let me use double arcs here. Okay. All right, so we have the first statement, reason is given. The next statement, angle NMP is congruent to LMP. Well, how do I know that? How do I know this is true? Well, it's based off of the information that was given. That's just definition of angle bisector. All right, and then it says MP is congruent to MP. Well, that's simply the reflexive property. All right, and then it says the triangles are congruent. Well, in the previous lesson, you learned your shortcuts. So look at your yellow sheet. And what would we use here? It would be angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. All right, so it's AAS. And now that I know the triangles are congruent, then I can make any statement I want with regards to the corresponding sides or the corresponding angles to those triangles. So LM is congruent to NM. How do I know that? This is your reason. You could always use this reason after you have proved two triangles are congruent to show that any of the sides, any of the corresponding sides, or any of the corresponding angles are congruent. All right, example 2. Missed my parallel symbol here again. Grr. Okay, we should be good now. All right, HJ is parallel to LK. All right, they're parallel, so I'm going to put my bold arrowheads here. And HL is parallel to JK. HL is parallel to JK. Okay, that's given. And that says angle HJL is congruent to KLJ, and HLJ is congruent to KJL. Okay. Now what would the reason for that be? Okay, well here I have parallel lines. This is my transversal. And here once again I have parallel lines. And this is my transversal. So for both cases, I have alternate interior angles as my reason. Oops. Alrighty, and then LJ is congruent to LJ. That's reflexive property. And then triangle HJL is congruent to triangle KLJ. By what reason? ASA, ASA. Alright, now that I know the triangles are congruent, I can make a statement about any of the corresponding sides or corresponding angles using the reason CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Next example. Okay, RS is congruent to RU. RS is congruent to RU. Angle STR and angle UTR are right angles. Alright, right angles. So it's given, then it says the triangles are right triangles. That's just definition of a right triangle. Then it says RT is congruent to RT. I know that by reflexive property. Alright, and then triangle STR is congruent to UTR. Okay, how do I know that? Okay, well I'm working with right triangles here. The hypotenuses are congruent, and one pair of legs is congruent. So the triangles will be congruent by HL. Alright, and now that I know the triangles are congruent, I can state that SRT, these angles are congruent. By what reason? C, P, C, T, C. Alright, last example. Given DA is congruent to BC, DA is congruent to BC. Alright, and angle DAC, DAC is congruent to angle BCA. Alright, I have to prove that AB is parallel to DC. Okay, so the first bits of information, the first statements are given. I have AC is congruent to AC. That's just by the reflexive property. Alright, and I have triangle DAC is congruent to triangle BCA by what shortcut? SAS. SAS. Alright, now I could say that these angles are congruent. DCA is congruent to BAC. Alright, and that's by what reason? Well, I know the triangles are congruent, so I could say that the corresponding angles are congruent by CPCTC. Alright, and now I could say that these sides are parallel by what reason? Well, I know that these alternate interior angles are congruent. And if the alternate interior angles are congruent, that must mean that these sides are parallel. So that's alternate interior angles converse, going back to chapter 3. All right. Now this completes the chapter. If you have any questions, please make sure to ask for help. Begin the assignment.